Bootstrap also has several classes for creating fluid responsive images, for styling images with a mask or with a border, and then also for aligning images. So let's go and add, one more new page and call this image classes.html. And we'll grab our template content, paste it into our new page. Alrighty, and I think what I'll do is just let's just change up our cells here, and then inside of this, let's go ahead and get rid of all the text. Alright, now we're ready to roll. Alright, so let's go ahead and add an image, and we'll set its source equal to be, let's just use our typical placehold.it/200 by 200. And we'll just do that for starters. And in fact, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Okay. Let's go ahead and style this up with a cell as well so we can see. And I guess we already have that. Good. Okay, so here we go. All right. So we're probably at the large size. There's the extra large. And let's start sizing down. And when we do, notice that when we get to the medium size, the pixel, absolute pixels for our image are pushing beyond the borders of the cells themselves until it just looks ridiculous. Okay. So how can we combat that? Well, we can add a class that will make our images responsive by making them fluid. In other words, they will change sizes to match the container that holds them. So img fluid is what we want. And so now let's rerun the app. And now when we resize, notice that the image gets smaller and smaller. Very cool. All right, so that's pretty useful because there are frequently you're going to have problems with images unless you find some way to resize them responsively. The same will be true with video players and anything that takes up some visual presence on your page and you don't have some way to resize it as the containers change size. Great. All right, in addition to that, there are, as we said a moment ago, some ways to style up images. So let's grab our image here. And we're going to go ahead and leave the fluid class intact, but I'm also going to apply another called rounded. All right, and so this will apply a mask to the image, and so you'll only see what's inside of the mask, a rounded version of the corners, and then we'll create another version of this that will give us a perfectly circular version of our image, again masking everything outside of the circle. And then finally there's a version of this called thumbnail, and it provides a little bit of a border around it like a picture frame. So let's go ahead and add thumbnail as well. All right, and let's go ahead and run it now and see these new examples. Okay. So as you can see, round corners, circle, and then we get this very cool little border effect around our images whenever we're using the thumbnail. Okay, nice. All right, next up, let's create a new row. And inside of that row, I'm going to reduce the number of cells. And what we want to talk about next is how to place images inside of a div tag. So in fact, I tell you what, let's just do like 6, for example, and we'll just do 2 rows of 6 with a cell, with 2 cells, with 2 rows, 2 cells, each of them 6 columns. Whew, that was hard to say. Okay, and what we're going to do, we'll start off with this first one, but just showing that we can either pull an image depending on the responsive size of the page, either to the left or the right. We can also set it back to none if we want to. And then in the second row, what I'll do is just put these all together in the same cell. And we'll make that 12. And we'll see how that reacts. Then what I want to do is create another row. And in here, what I'm going to do is actually center this particular one by using the center block like we learned about previously. And then finally, I'm going to not add any class to the image itself, but to its parent. I'm going to use text XS center. And we learned about that previously as well in order to center images inside of a container. So let's go ahead and run it and see all these examples. Okay, so after this first row, which we've already looked at, here we're aligning left and right, or floating left and right, our images. And then here I'm doing it in the same cell, not two different cells, but the same one. You can see it works just fine. And then here I'm centering using two different techniques. All right, so that's pretty much all that you can do with images, but that should be plenty enough to be able to put it wherever you want, change its shape, and even its context by adding that little frame using a thumbnail, and adding rounded corners and making it fluid so that it looks great in any container. All right, so let's continue on the next video. See you there. Thanks.